Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement, your no-hype source for financial advice and making informed choices about your retirement planning. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement, your live and local St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Erin Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services, financial planner and wealth manager, and I'm joined this week and every single week by my dad, Jeff Lapidus, retirement coach and wealth manager, and my husband, Robert Markham, life insurance agent and fixed annuity sales specialist.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a written step-by-step strategy, a real game plan with several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate.
Second is to provide an income stream they can rely on so they can do all the things they want in retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, without Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Erin, Rob, and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Gang, again, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Is it nice and sunny there in one of your last weeks in Florida?
Well, I have a month to go here, but I will tell you that it's wonderful. It's about 70 degrees. I'm watching the birds fly into the water and waiting for the alligator to crawl out, so it's all good.
It's like National Geographic out there. It's a little gloomy here. So I know we'll be getting lots of calls and texts from all of you at 314-931-5877 or 84126 on the text line.
That's right, and as a reminder, all of our clients are folks like you. They're our listeners. They're 55 and older. They are ready to retire, or they're already retired. And as Erin mentioned, our goal is to create a game plan for them so they can have a fun and financially successful retirement.
That's right, and there are quite a few ways to keep in touch with us throughout the week. Log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. In the upper right-hand corner, there is a Contact Us button. If you click on that, you can send us an email, request a coaching session, financial, Medicare, or both. If you have a question, we'll be able to get back to you within about 24 hours. On the lower left-hand side of the screen is a pop-up box that appears. It says sign up for our monthly newsletter. We call it the Coach's Corner.
Got some great articles in this month's Coach's Corner. You're definitely going to want to check out. I can't believe half the month is already gone.
That's right.
Just speed running the months now. But our first article in our February 2025 newsletter is Enjoying Retirement Despite the Cost. About half of retirees said that retirement costs were higher than they expected, but more than two-thirds said they were still enjoying the lifestyle they envisioned. Less than one-third were holding back spending to leave an inheritance, and there's a great little infographic there. And our next article, Key Retirement and Tax Numbers for 2025. Every year, the IRS announces cost of living adjustments that affect contribution limits for retirement plans and various tax deductions, exclusions, and threshold amounts. Last week we touched on the gift tax exclusion and standard deduction. This week we're going to touch on the Roth IRA limit, which is unchanged for 2025 and still stands at $7,000. And 401k, 403b, and 457 plans can now defer up to $23,500. A lot of money. And our next article, key retirement and tax numbers for 20. Oh, I'm sorry. That was the last one. Shh. Wake up.
Do it again.
Wake up, Robert. Our third article, Distressed Loans Pressure Some Banks. Is Your Money Safe? In March 2023, two of the largest bank failures in history alarmed savers and worried their deposits could be at risk. Our next article walks you through what happens in the event of a bank failure and its stresses, and we can't stress it often enough, to keep your accounts under the FDI limits, which protects your deposits. And our last article, Get Ready for Tax Time. I can't believe that we're already talking about tax time. It feels like we just went into the new year.
Well, tax time is approaching.
Well,
April 15th, it looms.
According to a recent survey, 42% of Americans would rather go to the dentist than file their taxes. But this article lays out some preparations you can take to make the filing season as smooth and painless as possible. Couple of nice little bullet points here. You might want to review last year's tax return. Not everything will be the same, but much of it will be. So that could be a nice primer to get you ready for this year's filing deadline. Think about recent life events. Was there an addition to the family? Did you get married? Did you buy a home? All things that could matter. Great third point. Gather all supporting documents and keep them in one place. I know me and my wife have done this, and that when tax documents come in, we put them in a designated spot. That way, when it comes time to grab them, they're all in one place and you don't have to scramble. And that is your 2025 February newsletter.
And we call it the Coach's Corner. It's easy to access. Just get on our website, jblfinancial.com. Click on that Coach's Corner news icon at the bottom left-hand corner, or as you're perusing through the site, I think it does come up on every page, and we'd love to send this out to you every single month by email, which is great to do. And as a reminder, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. We always have a lot of things on our mind. What's more important is what's on yours. So give us a call today. And I guess while we're waiting for your calls and your texts, I do want to mention something that's rather obvious. Great week in the markets. All the markets advanced this week, which was wonderful. So being invested certainly paid off for this week, and being invested pays off over the long haul. So for those folks that may be a little bit nervous about a new administration, 4 years from now, there's going to be another new administration, so there's no reason to wait. Get invested, stay invested. This is the greatest country on the planet, the freest and the fairest financial markets. Get into the game, because as we know, the way that over a long period of time you're able to withdraw money from your retirement savings is by the fact that you're making money, right? You don't have to worry about going the other way.
It's also one of the primary ways that you can attempt to outpace inflation.
Yes.
And it looks like the phone lines are lighting up. I guess all of your joy for the country on this Valentine's Day weekend has ignited some questions, and we have Paul on line one.
Good morning.
Good morning, Paul.
I have a IRA contribution question. I contributed $6,500 to my Roth. I'm a part-time worker, so I matched my wages. And I read something online that because of my age, I can contribute up to $8,000 last year. And I was wondering if that means that before the 15th of April, can I contribute $1,500 to my rollover IRA?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you can. So you've already done the 65 the Roth. You still have, as you mentioned, the $1,500 left. You could add that to the Roth, or if you want to put it in the traditional IRA, just want to make sure if you're doing it by check, I would write in the memo line 2024 contribution. If you're working with an advisor, make sure that they have it attributable to 2024. All of those things can be corrected down the line, but anything you can do in advance to just make sure it is attributed to 24 instead of this year will make it easier for you this year and next year.
Okay. Sounds great.
Yep, and you'll
Thanks.
still, if you're still working this year, that has no impact on the additional $8,000 that you still are able to contribute either to the Roth or the IRA or a combination therein, because your $1,500 that you're writing this year will go for 2024.
And just to make sure my mind is clear, I can only contribute up to my wages into my Roth, right?
That is correct. So if you've earned less than $8,000 throughout the year, you can only contribute what you've earned. If you've earned more than $8,000, the maximum contribution is $8,000.
Okay.
And by the way, that goes both ways.
Right, for the Roth or for the traditional IRA.
That's correct. That covers them both. There aren't separate limits for each of those. So again, it's a commingled one. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
Paul.
very welcome.
And we've got Greg.
Good morning, Greg.
Good morning. Thank you guys for the show. Hope everyone's doing well. I had a question regarding Social Security. I'm 68. I retired from my full-time job. My wife is 12 years younger than me, and I was thinking about taking my Social Security now. I'll probably work a part-time job somewhere. Well, my question is there a smarter way to take this Social Security? My concern is if something were to happen to me in the event of my demise, I'd like my wife to get the maximum benefits, or is that just a standard amount that she would get from Social Security based on what I do now in terms of executing or starting the withdrawal?
So your election will have an impact on what your wife is eligible for in the event that you predecease her. So if you elect today, then live a nice long life, but you pass away before your wife, she'll be entitled to 100% of your current Social Security benefit. That will be true if you decide that you'd like to put it off a little bit longer. You have 2 more years to go until you're 70. That's when you'll top out at the maximum Social Security benefit. So that would then become the maximum that your wife would receive in the event that you're gone.
Okay, but if whatever I execute today or whatever, in the event of my demise before she gets 100% of whatever that amount is.
That is correct. I'm assuming that your benefit is the larger benefit. The way that it works is...
Yes.
Okay, so then yes, she would assume your benefit, and then her benefit would no longer be coming in. So everyone loses the smaller benefit when they elect the survivor, when a spouse passes away.
Oh, okay. So whenever she is Social Security eligible, then it would just continue with my benefits. Her benefits would not kick in at that point as an add-on.
So if you're both alive, then you get your own election. So that means, 12 long years from now when your wife decides to elect her benefit, if that's when she does, you'll be receiving your benefit and she can receive hers. Then if you pass away, her benefit goes away and she keeps your benefit. In the event that your wife passed away before you keep your benefit and you would no longer receive hers. So the surviving spouse always gets to keep the larger of the 2 benefits.
Got you. Thank you so much. I appreciate the show.
Oh, thank you. It was great chatting with you this morning.
It's always nice when we have some phone calls right off the bat.
I knew it was chilly. It is kind of gloomy. Got to be inside.
Yeah, cozy with the coffee.
Exactly.
And we have our first text of the day, and our texter writes, I'm 68 years old and still working. I never signed up for Medicare. I work for a large company here in St. Louis, but when I do retire, I will have to go on to Medicare. Will I be penalized for not signing up? As long as your company has more than 20 employees?
That's right.
You will be fine. You will get a special election period where you can be onboarded onto Medicare without issue.
That's exactly right. So everyone has there are multiple election periods available through Medicare. Everyone is entitled to their initial election period, which is that 7 months that surrounds the month you turn 65. If you're like our texter and you continue to work after 65 years old and you are working for a company that has more than 20 employees, you do not have to elect Medicare because you will be entitled to a special election period in which you will essentially notify Medicare that you were on your employer's coverage until the day you decided to retire. So the day you turn 65 until the day you retire, you were on what's called qualified coverage, which means it's as good or better than Medicare. One of the ways Medicare determines that is by the number of employees at your company. 20 being the limit in this particular, being the threshold in this particular case. Medicare will then say, oh, we see that you were on qualified coverage. We'll waive the penalty and give you the opportunity to elect whatever supplement or Medicare Advantage plan you would like to couple with your Medicare coverage. So it'll be as if you were using your initial election period. You just get to delay that until the point that you would like to utilize it. Medicare is available for most people when they turn 65 years old, and it is required that you take it if you don't have coverage, if you have individual coverage, or if you are utilizing COBRA or certain retiree coverages. If you are utilizing qualified coverage, Medicare says it's not a requirement that you take Medicare yet. And essentially all they're doing is ensuring that everyone that does not have coverage elects their benefit before they have an issue that they need coverage for. That's that.
Excellent.
Very nice, complete answer. Thank you for that.
You know, this is a question that we get frequently, and I think it's important to be clear only because there are some nuances here, but just because you've turned 65 does not mean that you have to elect Medicare. It also means, and Dad, we talk about this a lot, that if you do elect Medicare, you may be limiting your current benefits. So, for example, if our texter who's currently working has access to an HSA plan, if he elects even Medicare Part A, no longer is he able to contribute to the HSA. So why elect a benefit that you are not going to utilize that will limit your other opportunities, you know, even to create some pre-tax savings for yourself for medical expenses down the line?
You could unknowingly tie your own hands behind your back when you don't mean to.
Exactly. And Medicare Part A is something that you cannot unelect. Because it has no additional cost to you, they don't allow you to drop it once you've elected it. Also, if you happen to be someone that has elected Social Security prior to 65, they will automatically enroll you in Medicare when you get to 65 because the assumption is that you are not working.
This is a perfect example of why you might want to consider working with a professional like Frank in our office, who can answer all these questions and, you know, onboard you onto Medicare without issue. And then, you know, as you go through using your plan, when something comes up, Frank is there to answer any issues that might arise.
That's a great point, and he can be very specific about your situation, meaning does it make sense for you to elect Medicare? We received a few emails after the show last week with some questions about, you know, I have coverage through work, but maybe does it make sense for me to take Medicare? If you have a specific situation you'd like to discuss, it does make sense to chat with a professional. Just because you don't have to take Medicare doesn't mean maybe in certain situations you might want to elect Medicare. So it can be nuanced.
And just as a reminder, at the top of the hour, we're going to have our Medicare segment. So if this is subject matter that you really enjoy, we're going to be spending some time with it at the top half of the hour.
That's right.
Very good. So, again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the usually hot and heavy KTRS text line.
Do you think before we get into our first topic of the week, our rock stars of the week, let's take our first break of the hour and we can dedicate a little bit of extended time to Donnie and Marie.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
It's cold.
So bring the heat with Dogtown Pizza. Warm up these winter months with one of 13 different flavors, from the new SOB, sausage, onion, bacon to a 4-meat or veggie. Or how about the all-star this time of year? I'm looking at you, hot chicken. Heat up those ovens and warm up those bones with a hot Dogtown pizza and tell Jack Frost to take a hike. These cold winter months are upon us, so take a trek to Dogtown. Dogtown Pizza, of course.
I'm Mike Robinson with Robank Properties, and I want your fixer-upper home or condo. It's crazy to spend a ton of money fixing it up when I will pay you top dollar right now. I don't even care what condition it's in. Your trash is my treasure. No inspections, no contingencies, just cold, hard cash. Call me, Mike Robinson, at 314-283-0867. That's Mike Robinson, 314-283-0867, or at robangproperties.com.
Hi, it's Jill Farmer for Premier Heating and Cooling. You know what? We were having some trouble with our furnace this winter. So I called our friends at Premier Heating and Cooling, and I got to tell you, it was such a good experience. The technician was so professional. He clearly understood exactly what he was doing more than anybody else we've ever had work on our furnace. And he really, truly helped explain it to us so we could understand as well. My husband and I were just really impressed with how everything was handled. And at the end of it, he gave us a detailed report of everything he'd done, so we have that information in case anything ever comes up again. I just really recommend our friends at Premier Heating and Cooling. They have 35 years of experience. They are the oldest and most experienced American Standard customer care dealer in St. Louis, and they have an excellent rating at the Better Business Bureau. If you give them a call and they come do work at your house, you'll see why so many people recommend Premier Heating and Cooling, just like I do. PremierHeatingCooling.net.
Since 1991, St. Louis has served as the gateway to the best men's basketball tournament. Arch Madness. Experience buzzer beaters, madness, and Missouri Valley Conference glory. And it begins here. The 2025 State Farm MVC Men's Basketball Tournament, presented by Credit Union 1 and Great Southern Bank, tips off March 6th through the 9th. Celebrate 35 years of Arch Madness. Get your tickets now at archmadness.com.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money.
It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS.
Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to the show. It's 9:28 here on the Big 550 KTRS, Talk Radio St. Louis. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach.
And I'm Robert Markham, your life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist. And we are willing, wanting, and waiting to take your phone calls and your texts. You can call us at 314-931-5877 or text us 84126 on the text line.
Well done, Robert. You stole my thunder there. I appreciate that. Well, I was going to say, while we're waiting for your calls and texts, let's talk about and do a little spotlight on our rock stars of the week. We thought that it would be nice to give Joe and Sally a little vacation time since we've been working them overtime on the show. So let's talk a little bit about Don and Marie. Don's 65, and he's an IT executive working for a cybersecurity company here in St. Louis. His wife, Marie, is a dental hygienist, and she's 63. They both currently live in Chesterfield. Their kids are grown. They're having fun. They both enjoy their jobs. Marie wants to continue to work until her age 65, when she will be eligible to enroll in Medicare. He would like to retire today. His question is, can we do it?
Well, there are a couple of different scenarios to get to the same place. We'll talk about scenario one. He retires today and waits until 67 before taking Social Security. So let's just run through Donnie's numbers. Donnie has 1.8 million 401k. Marie has 430,000 in hers. They have 110,000 in an investment account, and they have 62,000 in a money market account, which is for vault purposes. Total is 2.33 million, not including their vault. Their desired income is $8,000 a month, and we know we have to scale that up for taxes, so that leaves us with a monthly pre-tax goal of $9,600 a month. Now, Marie, who's not taking her Social Security, Donnie, who's not taking his Social Security now, he's waiting to normal retirement age. That's going to be $3,000 when it gets turned on, and Marie's is going to be $2,600. But again, these faucets are not turned on, so the only faucet we have to manage that $9,600 monthly income goal is Marie's income at $3,600. So that leaves us with $6,000 a month that we have to fill. And we know that annualized, that's going to come to $72,000, and we have to do that for 2 years, so that's going to be $144,000. So they're going to need $1.944 thousand.
Well, they're going to need $1.9 million, but where'd that $1.8 million come from that they need? In order to generate that $72,000 a year, we need, we want a lump sum of capital that we're going to live off the interest and the earnings from. So we need $1.8 million in order to do that at a 4% rate of withdrawal.
And then we have to add on the 2 years of drawdown while they're not getting any Social Security. So that's going to be another $144,000 on top of that, which brings us to a grand total of $1.944 million.
Exactly. So one option is to say that Donnie is going to wait until he gets to 67 to take his Social Security. So not only do we have to replace his loss, we have to replace his loss of income in its entirety. The other option is both Donnie and Marie take at their normal the second scenario is Donnie and Marie at their normal retirement age. So again, their income is still going to be the same need. We're going to need $9,600 pre-tax because we do have to incorporate the expense of taxes in retirement. As Rob talked about, Donnie and Marie's Social Security benefit are going to total $5,600 a month. So that means that we'll only be short $3,800 a month once Donnie and Marie are both retired and taking their Social Security benefits. So that's going to make up a pretty significant portion of their income need. But they'll still be short $3,800 a month, or $45,000 a year. And in this particular case, if we still want to live off of the interest and the earnings of our capital, only and not deplete the original capital that we invested, pulling at about a 4% rate of withdrawal, we need $1.1 million in order to do that. And the great news is Donnie and Marie were such excellent savers over time that they accumulated over $2 million of assets, not including their vault savings at that $62,000.
So that means they're rock stars. Woo!
That's right.
We love that. And, this also makes, I think, another point. And, Erin and Rob and I love to talk about the 4% prudent withdrawal percentage rate that we like to use. This is a rule of thumb that's pretty well known across the investment industry. But when you think about it, for us to be able to prudently withdraw 4% each year, we need to be invested in such a way so that what we can do is draw 4%, right? So we need to be in a portfolio that it's at least invested in such a way so that it has an opportunity to deliver those results over a long period of time. And if you think about it, go back even, 24 months ago, when interest rates were so low, being super invested or staying in cash and trying to be overly protective wouldn't have helped you whatsoever. We know what the markets have done over the last several years as well. So staying invested, the markets go up and down, but staying invested in a configuration that matches your risk tolerance. So for most folks that are we find our retirement clients, What they want to do is they would like to obviously pull out enough 4% to make things work. They want to take into account inflation and also taxes, which means that we really are looking at a goal. Isn't something that we can guarantee because nobody can guarantee what happens in the markets, but we want to invest them over the long haul with a goal of a rate of approximately 8%. And those types of returns have been achieved historically with configurations of 60% or more, between 60 and 80% invested in stocks, the balance invested in bonds and cash. So we're talking about anybody being what we would call moderately conservative to growth investors. So getting there by being great savers, and you know how you got there, it was because you were invested. Staying invested over a long period of time is what you really need to do.
I think that is something that people don't necessarily take into account when looking back at how they've achieved such excellent savings, which is, you had the discipline to make contributions to your retirement accounts. Maybe you worked for an employer that was also making some sort of matching contribution, but over the decades that you were working and making those contributions, you also had the power of the market over that same period of time to help enhance that savings for you. So what we find and what the data shows historically is that it truly is your time in the market that makes the largest impact, not timing the market. And it's also important to keep in mind that we're considering these portfolios over a long period of time because our goal is that you're going to be retired for a long period of time, maybe even longer than you were working. So we know you don't need every dollar that you've saved every day. You need that consistent rate of withdrawal. And if we stay in that 4% or below, or right in that range, that's going to give us the best opportunity over a long period of time to bank excess returns when we have great years like we've seen in the past, or to live off of those great years and the returns that we've saved and reinvested in the years that aren't so great, because we know that both of those things are going to happen in the future.
I've seen several situations in reviews or coaching sessions where, the withdrawal had to be elevated for a short-term period because of a debt obligation or an upcoming expense, and then immediately it gets turned down under 4%. So, managing that withdrawal rate is the number one indicator of staying on track and being within that game plan.
That's right.
You don't want to get year after year where you're pulling 7, 8, 9%, because then the whole thing just, apple cart turned over.
Right, because the math behind this is that in the years that we are able to earn greater than our target, you are keeping that in your investment portfolio, allowing that to continue to grow, hopefully, and only using that in the years where we need an elevated expense or something good happens, need a little extra. We're able to accommodate for that.
And I feel like, with the whole big drawdown that we saw in 2021 going into 2022, it really gave us a chance to stress test a lot of our game plans. And, as far as I know, we didn't have to send anyone back to work.
The market always gives us excellent opportunities to stress test our theories and also market conditions. We talk a lot about inflation, and I think that's helped us reinforce what our retirement strategies are for our clients and able to keep them on track even when they may see elevated expenses.
Absolutely.
And not to go too far off on a tangent here, but this kind of leads to hopefully a change in thought process. As Erin was really making the point earlier, we know that you don't need all of your money fully liquid and available, which basically if you're going to do that, you're obviously saying I want very little risk, and therefore I'm exchanging low risk for lower returns.
And not only that, I think the other thing that, Dad, you should point out is there are other types of risk aside from simply investment risk. We're all experiencing inflation risk at this moment or over the last several years more significantly. And so holding all cash can put you in a different difficult situation.
No question about that. And that's why, a part of our, I would just call it planning paradigm, is that we have this theory that we like to use that we call the 4 buckets, which basically is, we're assigning that bucket that is responsible, that amount of money that is responsible for generating the income flow that you have, as that very important bucket. And we want to make sure that in many cases that's a little bit more secure from risk. In this particular case, we know that Dawn and Marie had more than enough assets to meet their long-term goals. So the amount that was in that milk money bucket was great. We also then had money that we could set aside for growth. We also had money we could set aside if it was needed, even though they hadn't previously identified any, if they had capital consumption projects that we needed to get large sums of money for. We would be able to draw those and do those without risking tipping over the apple cart, as Rob very aptly put. And then at the same time, they did have a vault of cash, a reserve that they could tap on for any type of short-term emergency. So instead of thinking of your money as one big pile, okay, as planners, we like to really segregate these monies into functional units, and then obviously investing them in such a way so that we have an opportunity to meet your long-term goals. And really, that's what planning is all about. So we love rock stars. We love visiting with folks, and we continue to do this literally every single week. And you're our listeners, and it's easy to do. Just give us a call, 314-863-0008, or go to our website and hit that contact us section, and our staff is very happy to talk to you and arrange a time for you to come in and visit with us, which is cool.
And we've got some very, very long text that we're going to get to, but first we're going to take our second break of the hour, so don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these brief messages.
Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Lang. Join me every Sunday afternoon from 2 to 3 on the Big 550 for Animal Talk, where I talk about everything regarding dogs, cats, and other domestic animals. Topics include nutrition, training, medical checkups, special guests show up now and then, and of course, I'll answer your questions. So join me every Sunday afternoon from 2 to 3 for Animal Talk on the Big 550 KTRS, the Animal Talk of St. Louis.
The winter months are upon us, and you're standing in your living room, and you can feel the wind through the house. You know what that means? It means you need new windows, and that means you need to call my neighbor, Larry Thornton or Joe Thornton. You see, they run a company called The Window Store, and they've been selling quality windows and quality doors for 35 years. They have access to all the quality windows, whether it's a vinyl window or whether it's a wood window. They've got great doors, whether they're sliding doors, French doors, but they have them at prices that are better than everybody else in town. So if you're looking for windows or doors, or you have a vortex in your living room, Larry Thornton and Joe Thornton will take care of you. They do business with a handshake and a smile. There's no upselling. Everything they sell is energy efficient, stylish, and great designs. 35 years in the business, North County, St. Louis boys. What do you need? You need windows, you need doors. You need the Window Store, 314-739-0002. or WSWindow.net.
Don't miss the boats. It's the only boat show in St. Louis this year. The St. Charles Boat Show. Thursday, February 27th through Sunday, March 2nd. With recreational boats, boating accessories, and big winter savings on all brands of new 2025 personal watercraft, Tri-Tunes, runabouts, high-performance boats, luxury yachts, and more. Register for a free $1,000 gas giveaway at the show. Get more info at stcharlesboatshow.com. The Lake of the Ozarks Marine Dealer St. Charles Boat Show. February 27th through March 2nd.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
On the Big 550 KTR. Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to the show. We've got about 14 minutes left to answer your calls and questions at 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
Well, you know what, Dad? This Valentine's weekend, the texters are sending you all kinds of love with many Roth questions.
I love that. Could I just make one comment, if I might?
Go for it.
Before we do that, I was just thinking about this through the break that we just took. And it's something that I probably haven't said for, I hate to say it, probably 6 or 7 years on the show. It isn't the products that you buy, the mutual funds, the ETFs, the CDs, annuities, etc. It isn't the products that you buy that make your game plan work. It's actually the math. You have to start with your math. If you start with the math and it makes sense, then you build your portfolio back to that. Products are never the solution. Never.
Right. So I think we talk about this a little differently now than you had in the past, where we say that, there really aren't any good deals, and the products themselves, and like you mentioned, Dad, there's all different types of products available in financial services. Those are just the tools to get us to where we want to go. But as Mom likes to say, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So the planning has to come before the tools come, because we need to know where you're going. And that's part of our initial coaching session with everyone, and that's part of our ongoing coaching sessions with current clients, because sometimes the destination changes or it just gets modified a little bit, and we want to modify the tools we're using to get you to those places, and that's where initial and ongoing planning come into everyone's retirement.
Stuff happens.
That's right.
Life happens. So good. So let's get to our Roth question.
Yes, let's get the Valentine's going for Dad.
And our second texter writes, can Roth withdrawals put you in a higher tax bracket?
Well, I think this is my dad's favorite answer, maybe. Because if you followed all the qualifications, you're over 59 and a half, the Roth has been in existence for 5 years, then no, it's a non-taxable event to make distributions from your Roth. But if you don't make those two qualifications, all of the growth inside of the Roth is taxable. And if you're under 59 and a half, you will pay a 10% penalty on top of the taxes for your withdrawal.
Sounds like a classic case of they've given you the playbook, now please follow the rules.
It's a great point.
And our next texter writes, good morning. I have a traditional IRA I've been contributing to for 15 years. As you know, I get to deduct the amount I contribute on my income tax returns. Now I am second-guessing my choice because I keep hearing that Roth IRAs are a much better option on the back end. If I wanted to convert, would it be as simple as paying income tax on the total of my contributions, or is it more complicated than that? And do you see any chance of future legislation that might be more traditional IRA friendly when it comes to being taxed on withdrawals once I've retired and waiting to access that money? Thank you so much.
Well, Dad, before you jump in head first, because I know you have a lot on this one, I would just say that I would want to start out the conversation by discussing, your current tax bracket, because I think that's going to have the largest impact on, are you looking to make traditional IRA or Roth IRA contributions?
You're right, babe. And what I would tell you is that, I guess we have to call it anecdotal. Okay. Mm-hmm. We actually, compliance knows we actually do have clients, several hundred of them. And what happens is that we have found that our average clients, their total income generally is under $100,000 a year. That being the case, your effective tax rate is 11%. Now, if you're earning more than that, which most people are, pre-retirement, if you're converting IRA accounts to Roth accounts, or if you're making Roth contributions, you're basically you're paying more in taxes during a time period that you actually are in a higher tax bracket. If you feel compelled to do Roth conversions, which many of our clients do, and we love them, even though sometimes we may not agree, what happens is that it's better to wait until you're in a lower tax bracket to take advantage of doing that. So, again, what I would suggest is, I don't think you've made a mistake. During your working lifetime, you should be making the maximum deductible contribution, so you save taxes. You save the interest on those taxes over God knows how many years you've been investing. And then number two, the real power of a Roth conversion is having the cash outside to pay the taxes. Otherwise, you don't do a full conversion.
And I would also add to that, you are not paying taxes on just the contributions that you made to the traditional IRA. If you are converting IRA assets and you have seen growth in your IRA, you are going to pay taxes on converting the growth as well. So every dollar that comes out of your traditional IRA is going to be taxable if you take it home as income or if you convert it into a Roth. So it's not just all the years of your contributions and you don't have to worry about the growth. It's everything in that IRA. But to lead back to your point, Dad, which is that, and I even pulled the tax brackets up, for this current year just to take a look at where the break points are. Again, but it seems as though, the fear is that you'll have to pay taxes in retirement. But the benefit of retirement is that you have more control over the taxation of your income because you have more than one source. When people are working, generally you have wages. It's all taxable. When you are retired, you may potentially have multiple buckets of your own money to pull from. Maybe you have some Roth, traditional IRA that was a 401k, savings, after-tax investing. But also, not all of your income in retirement is necessarily 100% taxable either. Social Security's maximum taxation is 85%. So that means 15% of your Social Security benefit is not taxable to you. Social Security in Missouri and Illinois is not taxable at the state level, so you'll get to save taxes there as well. If you happen to live in Illinois, where I believe our converting texture or our texture is from just based on the area code, you don't pay taxes on IRA distributions on the state level in Illinois either. So you might find that in retirement, and if you follow along with us for a while and you do the math like we do on some of our rock stars of the week, you look at what your monthly spending is, you increase that for taxes, and then multiply that by 12, you might find that you naturally fall underneath the $100,000 a year, because we often think about our income as what our gross pay is, but none of us ever get to live off of the gross pay of what we earn. We have to take taxes out. We have to take our savings out because you've been making those IRA contributions, or maybe you're making 401k contributions. So you're living, most of the time we find people are living off of 60% or less of their gross pay, which means you're naturally going to fall several tax brackets when you get to retirement, completely leaving out how your income is constructed.
Very well put, Dave. And, again, the fear of, oh my God, I have to take an RMD, a required minimum distribution at age 73, forget about it. We're looking at the rate of withdrawal at that point is less than 4%. So even if, and for most of our clients, they're already taking income from the retirement assets as a way to maintain their lifestyle, which 100% of those we can use to offset the total RMD for the year. So I would say that, again, if you haven't done it, it's cool. And if you really want to do it, I think you really want to have a purpose for it. Because at the end of the day, what we have found, and Erin, I know you're going to back me up on this, is 100% of our clients do not use their Roth IRAs for income purposes.
True.
What they use them for is big ticket items. I have a wedding coming up. I want to get a new car, et cetera. Then they're pulling large sums of money, income tax free, which is great. But again, you have to think about, how did it get there? The way it got there was because you paid taxes on the money before you put it in. So there's always two sides to an argument. What's most important is what side of the argument really fits you. And again, if you're going to do a conversion, I would certainly consider waiting until you're in a lower tax bracket.
And the only point I would make, I mean, just using nice round numbers, if you were going to convert, say, $100,000, that doesn't mean that, you're going to be able to move $100,000 into your Roth. It's not unreasonable to think that 30% of that could be lost in taxes. So you're only really converting $70,000. And then, no one really talks about, had you left that money in the traditional 401k unmolested, what would that $30,000 tax bill, what would that look like if you left it undisturbed over 5 years or 10 years? Because once you've converted, you've lost that $30,000 is gone. It's over. Unless
you paid it out of a savings account elsewhere. That's a great point that both you and my dad made, is that you're not thinking about the loss to taxation. So regardless of your current tax bracket, if you don't have cash outside of the traditional IRA, you're going to lose growth to taxes because less is going to go into the Roth.
Right. And on top of that, you're also looking at a situation where, depending on when you decide to do this, you have the 2-year look back for your Medicare Part B premium. So, depending on when you did this could put you at risk for higher Part B premium. So there's a lot of moving parts here, and it's certainly the kind of conversation you're going to want to have with an advisor.
That is a great point. This is more complicated than simply paying taxes. Could be looking at taxes you didn't realize that you were going to be paying. So before you make any decisions that have tax implications, it does make sense to either consult with a CPA or with your investment advisor if they have already had a tax conversation with you in the past. You feel comfortable having those conversations with them.
Absolutely.
And we just had a very nice conversation. Do we have any other texts to go here?
We do. We have a fantastic text to wrap up the first hour of the show. I am 76 years old and will be retiring from BJC next Friday.
Woohoo!
Congratulations. And not to mention the retirement, but they have $100,000 in their 401k that's currently being managed at Fidelity. And essentially, our texter's question is: does this individual? Sorry, I just assumed it was a woman. Do they have to roll their 401k into a self-directed IRA managed either by themselves or someone else, or can they leave it at BJC? And the answer is:
yes.
You can leave it at BJC if you would like. And if you are not currently working with an investment professional, you might want to contact Fidelity because you have an individual that will give you some recommendations, or they may connect you with someone that says they have some other alternatives that they would like to talk to you about if you decide to roll it over into an IRA, even with Fidelity.
And I would certainly suggest here that you really might want to consider moving this money because you are going to be subject to required minimum distributions. Number one. Number two is if you want to make other types of distributions, your 401k really isn't built to do that. So it's a smart idea to roll them, as they would say, and work with a professional. And they do have people through BJC, but also there's other folks that are out there like us as well, right?
Absolutely. Well, since we don't have any other texts, and it seems like the two chattiest men in my life are now tongue-tied, we're going to take our break. We'll come back after these messages to have a great Medicare conversation, so get those Medicare...
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Welcome back to Straight Talk on Retirement. We are in hour number 2 this morning, and as you all know, we like to kick off our 10 o'clock hour with our smart choices about your healthcare segment.
Because you care, we talk Medicare. So if you want to give us a call or send us a text, we are all ears.
That's right, 314-931-5877 or 84126 on the text line.
And with that, let's talk a little bit about Tom. Tom has been on Medicare for about 3 years, and for the most part, he's been very, very happy with his plan. So happy, in fact, that he hasn't had to switch or even come in for a review, because he's just been flying casual, enjoying sucking up his benefits, and had no reason to change. But recently, he went to go see his primary, and he suggested going to a specialist, and he found out that that specialist was out of network, which wasn't that big of a deal because he had a PPO plan.
Okay.
But that just meant he was going to have to pay a little bit more to see that specialist. So then he got to thinking, like, well, wait a minute. Is it too late to switch? Am I stuck with this plan for the full year?
That's a great question. And I bet most people are thinking, yeah, buddy, you missed it. That's October 15th through December 7th?
Yes, it is.
That's our annual enrollment period. That happens every year for everyone on Medicare. So you have a Medicare Advantage plan, you have a supplement with a prescription drug plan. This is everyone's opportunity to evaluate. We call that annual enrollment, but many people refer to it as open enrollment.
But there is actually an open enrollment for Medicare Advantage participants only.
That's right. So this one is unique. This is for, as Rob just said, Medicare Advantage participants only. It starts January 1st, and it runs through March 31st. And it gives Medicare Advantage enrollees the opportunity to review their current coverage and make a switch to another Medicare Advantage plan if they would like.
So in Tom's case, being that here we are in February, he's already noticed that one of the specialists that his primary has him going to see is out of network. It's not too late for Tom, is it?
It is not too late for Tom to have a conversation about this year's benefits. Now, there are a few things I want to mention before we get into some of the details, which is, first thing, if you are considering making a switch now that you've heard it's an opportunity, you do want to keep in mind that any money that you have spent this year on your current policy, so from January 1st till today, let's say you had a little bit too much Valentine's Day candy yesterday and you're listening to us from a hospital bed, any money that you're spending on the plan now does not carry over to the new Medicare Advantage plan that you would elect. So this isn't a super simple decision to make. Definitely want to have a longer conversation about it before making a switch, because there could be some financial implications involved.
You're basically starting over with your max out of pocket. Whatever money you spent towards that old plan is not going to carry over.
That's exactly right. So you want to keep that in mind. Sounds like Tom went to the primary, which was a zero copay, and then he went to a specialist. He paid a little bit more than he wanted to. So we're not talking about a significant amount of money, but even if he paid, let's say it was $75 to see that specialist, that $75 isn't coming with him if he does make the decision to move to another plan.
Does that, now, just thinking aloud here, if he were to, suck up some benefits on that plan for the limited amount of time he's on it till he makes the switch. His new over-the-counter and whatever peripheral benefits would all start over with the new plan.
Indeed. So
you could kind of see where I'm going.
There could be a game to play here a bit, which is, let's say Tom already used some of his extra benefits. So he bought some of those over-the-counter items. Maybe he even had a crown replaced. Who knows? In January, it was a big month for him. If he does make this switch, and every switch that you make is going to be effective the first of the next month, so you only have 2 more months to do this, meaning you can only get a March 1st effective date or an April 1st effective date. Then open enrollment is over. So you've got the next 45 days to make this consideration. When he switches and the new plan becomes effective, nothing carries over. So that means he's got all new dental if the new plan he selects offers dental, all new over-the-counter, and if you switch mid-quarter, you could have access to a double quarter. So, for example, if United Healthcare is paying a quarterly over-the-counter benefit, you use all of that up in January, and then you switch in March to a new Medicare Advantage plan. They have a quarterly benefit available. The quarter's not over. You can use it.
So, in theory, Tom could use the dental benefit for example. He could max that out in the first quarter, switch, and then he's got a new dental benefit to get into
for the whole rest of the year.
Wow.
So, yes, it can work in both directions. However, because the extra benefits are secondary in terms of our analysis, that is a nice perk of making a switch.
But never a reason to be the determining factor for why you should choose a plan or switch a plan for that matter.
Certainly. So we want to, consider how much you've spent on the plan this year, and that's not towards the extra stuff, it's towards your medical. Then we'll want to take a look at, like in Tom's case, Tom has a couple of options here. Like you mentioned at the outset, he had a PPO-style plan, which means, one, he wasn't prohibited from seeing that specialist that his primary recommended, and two, he was still able to pay a reasonable amount for it because there is, one, you have a maximum out-of-pocket on your out-of-network benefits with the PPO-style plans, but then secondly, there's a cap on how much they can charge you for your copays because it's a percentage as opposed to a fixed dollar amount like you get with the in-network benefits. So there are a few things. He was okay, but there might be a few things for us to consider with Tom, which might be, can we just get that specialist in-network for him and find an HMO-style plan? That might give him the opportunity to just see everybody in-network.
If he were to come in and see Frank or one of us, I mean, the first move on the chessboard for us is, what are you taking and who are you seeing, and how do we incorporate that into the lowest cost environment Medicare Advantage plan that we can find for you, with the criteria of, again, as always, what are you taking, who are you seeing?
Exactly. And so then Tom still has a couple of options, which is, one, are there any HMO-style plans that would incorporate all of his physicians appropriately? HMOs usually come with lower maximum out-of-pockets, lower co-pays, and sometimes they have enhanced extra benefits. So you get a little bit extra sometimes with those HMO-style plans. Or,
babe,
yes.
I had a question for you. This
from
is
the cheap seats just coming in off the.
Well, I'm covered by Medicare because I am a grown-up at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my question was, as I was thinking, and I don't think you discussed this, what about prescription drugs?
Do they carry over?
Well, the drugs don't carry over, but I'm wondering does the 2,000
yes.
annual out-of-pocket limit does? So, in other words, you'd be in a good place then, right?
Yes, and that's a very good point that you make, which is that because the prescription drug side of your coverage has some federal standards in place now, especially with that $2,000 cap, those expenses carry over for you. You probably noticed, many of you, that everyone on Medicare, because if you're using a Medicare Advantage plan or a standalone prescription drug plan, you get letters in the mail from those respective companies saying, this is how much you've spent so far this year, this is where you are. When the donut hole used to exist, they would show you how far you've progressed through your coverage. I haven't seen what the letters look like now, but I'm assuming they're probably going to let you know how close you've gotten to that $2,000 maximum. So that is one that will come along with you, but the medical side of those expenses do not carry over for you. And just to be super clear, if you are making a switch from one Medicare Advantage plan to another and the cost of the meds change, that you are going to be subjected to that. It's just that internal tally of how much you have spent on the medications is what will carry over for you. And
it's just an aside, I was asking Frank yesterday if we've heard from any clients that have utilized the smoothing provision, and we have not.
Just remind everybody what that smoothing provision is.
The smoothing provision, if you're going to hit your max out-of-pocket of $2,000 for drugs within the first 3 months of coverage, what you can do is you can spread that $2,000 cost out evenly over a 12-month period, so you won't leave the pharmacy paying any money right there and then. You'll be invoiced by Medicare. I believe it's if you were to break down the $2,000 a month evenly, it comes out to $167.67. So it makes it a little bit more chewable,
manageable,
right? So you don't walk in there on January and get hit with a $2,000 or $500 bill right off the bat. I think their mandate, if you have a bill in the beginning part of the year that's more than, I believe, $400, they have to make you aware that option is at least available. We haven't heard from anyone that's taken advantage of it, so I imagine it must be going off relatively smoothly.
Right. So just to kind of reiterate that, if you're someone that does have higher priced medications, they are going to give you the opportunity, instead of, having a spiked cost at the beginning or in the middle of the year, you get to pay a consistent amount. You don't actually pay the pharmacy when you go in. They're just going to hand you your meds, and then you pay that $2,000 divided up over the 12 months. There are no service charges or fees for this. Now, if you do not pay, they're not going to disenroll you from Medicare, but you are going to create an issue for yourself. So make sure that if you have enrolled in the smoothing provision, that you are looking out for those monthly bills that will come that you'll pay separately. The other thing to keep in mind is if you are looking at transitioning onto Medicare, you're going to have that opportunity to elect that smoothing provision when you enroll with the Medicare Advantage plan or the prescription drug plan that you're going to utilize.
Absolutely, and thank you for adding in there are no service charges or finance charges if you want to take care of, if you want to utilize the smoothing provision. It's just a straight $2,000. You don't have to worry about any additional charges,
which is nice. So we were kind of talking about what Tom's options are. Tom can stay where he is, which means he might come in and have that chat with you and Frank and find out that maybe even though this one physician is out of network, he has out of network benefits. He might like everything else about the plan. The prescriptions are a reasonable price, and maybe this is the best fit for him. Okay. Or we could take a look at the HMO style plans. Now, Tom originally elected a PPO, and maybe he isn't in love with the PPO style plans, even though they've changed quite a bit since he originally enrolled, giving him the opportunity, not to have referrals, but still having to stay in network. I like how you describe it as kind of a walled garden. If you are on an HMO style plan, you have in-network benefits. If you are traveling or there's an emergency, you do have benefits available to you, so you can go to the physician, you can go to the ER, you can go to the urgent care without having to worry about being out of network. Those will be billed in network for you. So urgencies and emergencies will always be billed in network. And then in addition to that, over the last several years, the major carriers have opened up their national networks to the HMO plans, which means if you're a snowbird or if you just happen to travel frequently and you will find yourself in another state, if the physician that you would like to see accepts, if you're using Aetna, if they accept any Aetna Medicare Advantage plan, they will see you as an in-network Aetna participant. They're not going to accept your Aetna plan because all of these plans are regionally based, even if it might have the same name, because a lot of the companies will name similar products across the country, but it's not the same plan, but you still get to utilize those in-network benefits. So things have changed over the years, which is why it always makes sense, even if you're happy with your plan, maybe to just check in with whomever you're working with, and it doesn't have to be during an election period, annual enrollment or open enrollment, just to hear about some of the extra benefits. I even hear, and this is true of even our clients who we reach out to everyone during the annual enrollment period, that they say, hey, I didn't even know about this benefit until right at the very end. I happened to catch you on the radio or something, and I tried to use up all that fitness benefit last year with Aetna before the end of the year. You don't want to leave anything on the table, so it always makes sense to have a chat, even if you're feeling comfortable. The other alternative would be, we considered the HMOs. Maybe Tom's not into that. We can look at other PPO-style plans, and it could even be within the same company. So, if Tom happens to be with United Healthcare, United has more than one PPO plan available. Maybe we're just switching between different PPO plans with United Healthcare, or we can broaden it to other carriers.
Tom has a lot of options, and it's not unreasonable to think, given the robust nature of these HMO networks, that his specialists can be covered through an HMO.
Sure.
But it all starts with making an appointment, sitting down with a professional like Frank, filling out that medical questionnaire, and then going from there.
And, Frank leaves us some great notes for our segments when he's not able to join us. And one of the things he mentioned is it's not too late for a review, and it's really never too late for a review. And that means that even if we get past March 31st, or even if you're someone that has a supplement and a prescription drug plan, and you didn't chat with anyone last year, or maybe you've never chatted with anyone because you decided, you made the election on your own, you were happy with it. It's never too late to have a conversation because, like we just mentioned, you might find that you are eligible for benefits you didn't know about, that the plans changed in a way that is advantageous or not advantageous to you, so you can hear a little bit more about what you're currently doing. And then also, what I always like to tell our Medicare clients, and I know Frank does this as well, let us know what you are either very happy with or very unhappy with at any point during the year on your plan, because that's going to help us have a better conversation with you when there's an enrollment period up. Or if you call in with an issue, maybe it's something that we can resolve without having to change your plan.
And that kind of stole my thunder because, I walked into Frank's office just as he was finishing up dealing with a client that had some real questions about bills that he received now in calendar 25, but they were relating to medical
services from 24.
Right, and so he thought there must be a mistake. I should have gotten these bills earlier, and Frank was able to walk him through that. Actually, no, these were legitimate bills. You're just getting them here in the new year, but they actually were going towards your max out-of-pocket last year. So, there's a lot more that goes into being full service than just onboarding someone onto Medicare. It does not stop, because as you use your plan and as you may run into an issue, it is always nice. And it's always, you don't have that anxiety of they sent me this letter and it might as well be in a different language because I don't understand what they're talking about.
Or I called the insurance company and I got 3 different answers to the same question.
After sitting on hold for 45 minutes. Exactly.
So it is nice to have someone that you can have a conversation with that can be a sounding board for you, and that also can help alleviate issues that maybe have pressure valves to alleviate. We don't want you to go the whole year unhappy with the plan that you have elected, and that's not to say we field these calls frequently, but it is to say that when we do, hopefully we can either be of assistance or let you know when the light is at the end of the tunnel. We'll say you're first on the list for Kelly, our office manager, to give you a call during open enrollment or during annual enrollment next year, so we can review your coverage right away, see what the best option is for you moving forward. We had a quick question. Is there a cost? My mom's 95, and I'm not sure what she's on or what she does.
It only costs if you don't make that appointment, as I like to say.
That's right.
There is never a cost to you.
No, there is never a cost.
We're paid by the insurance company, so it really doesn't matter whether you choose a supplement, a Medicare Advantage plan. We just want you to be in the plan that's right for you.
Exactly.
Who you're taking, what you're taking, who you're seeing. Again, we want to work the equation backwards from what's most important.
Exactly, and that's an excellent point, which is that because we are paid on a commission basis, we do not charge for visits, and that also means that if you come in and see us and find out Mom or you are in the right place, there are no charges there either. Hopefully you'll want to come in and see us again in the future and continue the relationship, but we don't make changes just to make them. But it is nice, and hopefully that gives you a little peace of mind if you find that you're in the right spot, that you got the best thing out there for you.
And when you're dealing with someone with a robust knowledge base like Frank, and who's dealt with these issues day in and day out for years now, a lot of things that may be very, very confusing on the front end to you, Frank will be like,
saw this last week.
Right. Dealt with this just the other day. So it's always nice to work with a professional, and it only costs you if you don't.
Exactly. And we've got one more text question before we take our break.
And our texter writes, offhand, you know if United Healthcare PPO S4 plan has an expanded network like the Aetna plan?
I do not know who dropped the ball at United Healthcare this past year, but they used to have the most excellent marketing. You know, the Silver Sneakers benefit with United Healthcare is now Renew Active, and I think they've always been... They've always been a leader. In their app is fantastic. I consider that marketing too. I do not know who named their Medicare Advantage plans for the 2025 calendar year, but like ST4, ST2, it's been a little. It's not nearly as fun to talk about, and it's a little hard to differentiate.
It's almost as if the guy who got fired from NASA for the renaming of the planets, like F2974. Like
what happened to Pluto?
Right. I completely agree. These names are for the birds.
But in all seriousness, the United Healthcare PPO S4 policy, United Healthcare and Aetna have two of the largest networks in the Missouri and the Illinois area. With the PPO with United Healthcare, you do have a very large in-network option. The PPO gives you even more availability, and as you probably know, since you're using that PPO, you do have out-of-network benefits as well. There's a pretty significant overlap between the United and Aetna policies, but there are differences. So we have noticed that some people fit into that United PPO over the Aetna and vice versa. So network is important. They are both very large. Aetna's happens to be the largest in the area, but that's not by leaps and bounds. Those are the two big players in terms of network size. The one thing I will say is that Aetna, over the last, I would say, nearly decade, has not only committed to continuously expanding the size of their network, but at times when they have to pull benefits back, like in 2025, they maintain the size of their network. United Healthcare is more apt to find cost cutting by making changes to network size or availability. Sometimes that comes in the form of specific specialists, like they've limited dermatology specialists on the plan, or it could be, as we almost experienced with Anthem and Mercy last year, a complete hospital decoupling.
And everyone was freaked out about that.
And it didn't happen.
Right. And, that's one of the lessons here. It's, there a lot of times there can be an 11th hour deal.
Yep.
So let's not get too far out in front of the parade.
Exactly. And I would say that that's also why Medicare creates multiple opportunities for you to make changes on network-based plans. And we know those as Medicare Advantage plans, because as the plans make changes, Medicare wants you as the enrollee to have the same opportunity to make changes. So with all that being said,
if you're on a Medicare Advantage plan and you'd like to schedule an appointment with Frank or just put eyes on Medicare Advantage plans for the rest of the year, you have until March 31st to do so.
Right, so give Frank a call, 314-863-0008, or send him an email, franklin@jblfinancial.com. And we had a quick text clarification. Yes, United Healthcare, because they have a national network, will allow you to access their national network, just like Aetna has allowed their enrollees to access the national network. And with all of that, we will take our first break of the hour and be right back after these messages.
Progressive presents Employee of the Month. Small Business Edition. Today's recipient from Lucky Larry's Landscaping, Larry! Larry saved his business money with a quick commercial auto quote from Progressive. Does it help he's his own marketing manager, accountant, executive assistant, and never been late? Technically, yes, but saving really put him over the edge. So, Larry, give Larry a round of applause. Be your own Larry. See if you could save in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Every year, at least 15,000 people in Missouri die from it, leaving behind children, spouses, mothers, and fathers. It's the #1 killer in Missouri. It's heart disease. There is good news. Heart disease can often be prevented, and the Big 550 wants to help with KTRS Red. All this month, American Heart Month. The Big 550 will help improve your heart health with simple changes you can make now to help lower your risk of developing heart disease. Changes like
losing weight,
learning how to stop smoking,
drinking in moderation, watching what you eat,
becoming more active. Don't become a statistic. Become heart healthy all February with KTRS Red. KTRS Red is presented by the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services Heart Disease Program, Schrader Funeral Home and Crematory, McKnight Place, and KTRS Cares.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Well, we're back for the last half hour of hour number 2 of Straight Talk on Retirement. As soon as they turn down the music, we'll be able to
We're just jamming out over here. We have to keep ourselves entertained. We don't have the beautiful sun and wildlife in Florida.
And the life is wild in Florida. That's all I can tell you. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And just as a side comment, I love the fact that we're so committed to Medicare and Medicare planning. This really has made it, I think, not only convenient, but incredibly helpful for our clients, because when they do have situations where their health changes, there's always concerns about money. And we're in a situation where understanding the costs, understanding the out-of-pocket expenses, we're really able to help them navigate this area. In most cases, feeling a little bit better about things, because we don't have to worry about being bankrupted because of healthcare costs. We know that's just not really the case.
I think that's a great point, Dad, because I remember it's almost 15 years ago now, the very first conference that you took me to, and the speaker said the top 3 concerns for individuals in retirement are: do I have enough money to retire, medical expenses in retirement, and something else that I don't remember. So I think that it is an important service that we provide, that not only can we help when someone's health changes, or help create some security in knowing that as your health changes, that doesn't mean that you have to change your lifestyle expenses necessarily, even if that may naturally happen, but that as you head into retirement, that we can plan out those expenses, which might mean that you are able to retire a little earlier than you planned because you don't have to wait till 65. We can do the math for you. Or that maybe you find you don't have to wait till 65, but having a mortgage payment worth of insurance premiums every month isn't worth retiring yet.
Yikes.
And so at least you have the ability to make those, as you like to say, Dad, we're able to put all the information in front of some very smart people, because they've gotten to the point where they're able to retire, and they get to make the best possible decision with as much information as available to them.
And, I'm very prideful in you and Rob, obviously, and Frank, in the fact that we're helping literally hundreds of people newly enroll into Medicare and choosing the right Medicare plan. But on top of that, we have thousands of St. Louisans, as well as folks in Southern Illinois, that we assist in this matter. We're organization. We're one of the biggest ones in the state. So thank you to our listeners, because you're the ones that made it happen.
Yes. It's been a great ride these last several years.
Absolutely. And our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 126 from the text line.
And the text line is quiet and the phone line is empty. So with that, I think we should get into our second topic. Should we get more conservative in our investing? And this is an interesting email we received from John. And John writes, my wife, Judy, and I are 64 and want to retire later this year when we turn 65. Of course, I will be calling you and Erin for a coaching session to discuss Medicare insurance options and to create an income stream to replace a portion of our current paychecks.
It sounds like John might be a listener.
It sounds like it. We are invested in a moderate mix of 60% stocks and 40% bond mutual funds in our 401k plans. Everything I read says the economy is teetering into a recession. Should I become a more conservative investor now? How are you advising your clients? This is a great question.
And my answer is no, Nanette. The future is always uncertain, but staying invested is needed to make your game plan work. We know that's how you've built your wealth. We also know that we're going to be needing to stay invested as a way to generate income so we can preserve your capital.
And, Dad, I think you make a great
Would we reduce your stock exposure of 60%? The answer is no. That's actually probably the bottom range as far as it goes in terms of being what we consider to be a moderately conservative investor. But, babe, why don't you go through what the formula really is?
Certainly. So our target return is 8%. And really the way that we come to that number is, if we have to subtract 1% for taxes, we also subtract 3% to account for inflation, which means we're going to net from that 8% return 4%.
Which is our prudent withdrawal rate.
Exactly. It's funny how those numbers all match up together. So we have to put the portfolios in the best possible opportunity to help us hit that 8% target. And before we move forward, I just wanted to say, listening to Rob read that email from John, although this email came in recently and it's certainly timely, I think that there's about maybe one or two sentences that have changed in this email over, the last several years, which is, I've read that, and then it's either something about the economy, about another administration.
Or a blunder.
A blunder about an upcoming apocalyptic event. There are always things, and Dad, I think you put this well, something's always going to happen. A new administration's coming in every 4 years. So what our job is as investors is to stay prudently invested over a long period of time, adjusting the portfolio to meet certain economic conditions, but realizing that, history has shown us that most of these things are short-lived. And in many cases, like we like to use the most recent example of really the last 24 months. I don't think 27 months ago anyone was talking about AI or artificial intelligence investment, where that was going. And it's really, not only has it powered the market over the last 24 months, but we've started to see that it's broadening investment in the market, meaning that we're seeing other sectors of the economy starting to pick up based on economic activity from AI investment.
Oh, and think about the pitfall that you could potentially be in. Like, say, back 27 months ago, you were like, you know what, it looks like the end of the world is upon us. I'm going to turn down the temperature or turn off the temperature on my investment completely and go into cash. Now, you as the markets are going up, you're not invested, so you're not taking part. But now you have another dilemma. Now you're waiting for it to go back down so you can feel better about getting in, but now it's not going back down. So, on the one hand, you didn't partake in staying invested, so you missed out on an uptrend. And then you don't want to buy into an uptrend because you feel like you've already missed it. So you've created much more problems than you potentially solved. And these are not unreasonable. If I miss something at, say, 50, I don't want to buy it at 60 because, I could have had it at 50. So it's a mental trap that you can fall into very, very easily.
Again, I only to add just a little bit, not really color to this, but if you want to, just my perception, there hasn't been a day I shouldn't say that. There hasn't been a week over the last 25 years that I've been working with folks where someone hasn't really thought that or asked the question, should I get invested now because the markets are high? Well, virtually every year the markets are going higher. So maybe you miss some of it, but you're not missing all of it. And as it was well put, I mean, if we go back 3 years ago when we were in the middle of COVID,
COVID was like 5 years ago now.
Was it? Okay,
like,
5 years ago.
Goodness,
Okay.
right? Time is moving.
Well, during any of these financial calamities, again, those tend to be really, if you want to think about it, even more optimal times to be invested. But staying invested, being invested is really where you want to be. So let's just think about this. So, John, you want to come and visit. Obviously, you want to see Erin because she tells less stories and she's smart. She's her mother. So how's the process and how do you get started? Well, the first thing you need to do is to give us a call or send us an email to arrange for your coaching session. It's fun. It's free. It's at our offices and all of that, where we do truly have the best coffee and free parking, which is great because we own our own building, have our own parking lot.
And you're leaving out the fun snacks. I mean, we have some healthy treats
All right.
if that's what you're into, but we also have, we want to have fun. You're getting ready to retire, or maybe you're already retired, and we got to hear about all the great things you're doing.
I think all the healthy snacks are still there because I haven't eaten all the other stuff yet. So that's cool.
No,
That's right. We got ding dongs, ho hos.
We got
chocolate,
all the good ones, and I tell everyone.
Popcorn.
I tell them on the front end, take with both hands on the way in and on the way out.
That's right. You need snacks for the road.
Well, just so everybody knows, the staff is not picking these snacks. I am. So
then they're good.
Absolutely. I'm buying the things that your wife won't buy for you generally. So that's the first thing is that you call us to arrange a coaching session, or either by email or by telephone. We'll send you we call it a financial questionnaire and a investor profile. The investor profile is basically your basic questions about your time horizon, how your feelings about stocks versus bonds versus cash, etc. A questionnaire you've only filled out about 40 billion times. It only takes about a minute and a half to do. And it gives us an idea about what your risk tolerance is in terms of what your mix should be. The financial questionnaire takes 2.5 minutes to do because you're giving us most of your general information, name, address, phone number, social security numbers, telling us about how many children you have, how many grandchildren I wish that I had, and also you're giving us some information about mortgages, 401ks, things like that, your basic financial information. We ask you, obviously, to bring that with you when you come to visit with us. What we then do is the fun part, right? When we get in the office, we'll compare your current withdrawal needs with your current withdrawal rate, and that's a big deal. We're also going to make sure that you plan to, if you already haven't, set aside at least 6 months of cash into your vault, your emergency fund, and then what we'll also talk about is how we automatically have these accounts rebalanced every 6 months so that we're hopefully capturing profits. And that's a big deal.
It is a big deal. You know what else is a big deal?
What's the big deal, Ben?
We got a couple of text questions to get to.
Woohoo! Well, let's do it before we get into John and Judy's numbers.
And our texter writes, I read in the Post that Missouri may eliminate capital gains tax. Is that realistic? And would it only be on long-term capital gains?
I've not heard this rumor.
I have not either.
Sounds like a great rumor, though. I mean, and Missouri did just eliminate taxes on Social Security benefits, so maybe it's a trend. We'll keep an eye on it.
Definitely keep abreast of that. Could be a giant W for Governor Parsons. Another one.
Exactly. And another question regarding taxes, this is a great one. Is it possible to write things off against your boat and consider it a secondary residence?
That's not a bad idea.
I mean, well, okay, that was not tax advice.
I would say that I would have to say that sounds to me like a Titanic idea.
So we're going with no, even though it sounded good. Kind of like Rob buying over-the-counter items and then trying to return them for cash at Walgreens and CVS.
It wasn't. It was store credit. Let's not get it twisted. You know, it was store credit. We're not trying to rake anybody. We just want what we're entitled to.
Yeah. The answer is no. Very, very creative, but no.
Well, I guess, maybe if you happen to be in Missouri, sir, maybe they won't be getting your capital gains taxes, so you'll be able to save it another way. But unfortunately, it sounds like you cannot write things off against the boat. But what we can do is take our last break of the hour, and when we come back, we'll still be here to answer all of your questions and get to John and Judy's numbers.
So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these brief messages.
The storms are back, the wind, the hail, the damage to the roof. And when the roof gets damaged, who do you call? You call John Bill Roofing. But the storms are back. You know who else follows the storms? The storm chasers. These are the teams of people who come and leave a note on your door, mailbox, maybe your windshield wiper, and they tell you to call, and you think you're getting a deal. You give them half the money, and you never see them again. With John Bill Roofing, they've been in this business for a long time right here in St. Louis. They live, work, and play, and they guarantee you to give you the best price on your roof. When the roof gets damaged, your first phone call is to John Bill Roofing, 1-800-NEW-ROOF, 1-800-NEW-ROOF, or johnbillroofing.com. Roofing, siding, gutters, John Bill Roofing. Residential, commercial, industrial, a company you can trust, a company that lives, works, and plays right here in St. Louis. Make it local. Make it John Bill or johnbillroofing.com.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Well, we're back. It's we've got about 13 minutes left here in the show. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the usually very active KTRS text line.
Text line is kind of
slowing down.
We've
well, that's great. Well, then I get an opportunity to anecdotally tell a story about my favorite oldest prodigal child.
I can't wait.
Which is one that your mother reminded me of today. And it was funny because it reminded me. I mean, you talk about how things are connected in your brain, right? So I'm listening to the last texter that had a question about his boat, which led me to a thought about the Titanic, that led me to a thought about how we used to sing the Titanic song when we were in the car.
They built
when you
the
were
ship
little.
Titanic. That's right.
Exactly.
Sail the ocean blue.
Exactly. I'm not going to sing it here for you, but that's how you learn to sing like your mother.
Which is why I'm in radio.
Yeah, exactly. But then that also led me to the whole thought process of Hanukkah every day. Which we like to think
because when I was small, we were singing this song together, and that is when I had Hanukkah every day?
Yes, it was. And I do remember that we were watching. I remember one day we were watching television, and, Dad, would you buy me this? Dad, would you buy me that? And I said to you, I will buy you every single thing that you see on TV if you can find one thing that you don't want me to buy in the next hour. Well, of course you didn't. And for some reason, it came up, and it just really surprised me.
What's that?
That you had a conversation with your mother, and you said that how you felt that you had such a neglected childhood because you didn't get your favorite thing.
Now, for all of those listeners out there, and many of you have families, we can just attest to the fact that this story has been modified from the original conversation.
Is that kind of like when I say when we watch a movie, like, based on true events, that means you could drive a truck through the holes in the story?
That is correct. And I mean, because we have a few minutes, I guess I can regale the listeners of my version of this story, which was I was chatting with Mom a couple of days ago, and she said something to the effect that I've given you everything you've ever wanted or asked for, and I said that's pretty much true, except for the Pocket Gourmet.
That's right.
And because Mom is a lawyer, she said back to me, I said everything you asked me for, not your father. And then to upstage you, Dad, she went and found a Pocket Gourmet to send me. And so I will be making delicious paninis, pressed sandwiches, all types of variety of treats. And I could, maybe we will bring it to the office and I can provide our clients lunch.
Well, that sounds like fun. I just want to know if you've received it yet.
No, I mean, this only happened like yesterday. This is
Okay.
current events, everyone. This is up-to-the-minute Lapidus family activity you're hearing less than 24 hours ago.
Yes, and I did remember the term Pocket Gourmet said about 65 times by you consecutively, so it's okay.
It had a ring to it. I couldn't help myself. And we've entertained the listeners enough to the point where we've got a few text questions on
it
deck.
seems like the dam is broke a little bit
Yes,
here.
it has.
Beautiful.
And our texter writes, did I hear Erin say Missouri ended Social Security tax? What about on the federal level? Like, they just want to give Parsons more power.
Well, yeah, right. I don't think Parsons has that much power, unfortunately, but we did eliminate the state tax on Social Security benefits in Missouri.
And our next texter writes, can I drop Medicare Part A and pick it up later? I have coinsurance.
Unfortunately, they don't let you drop Medicare Part A. You could call the Medicare, you could call 1-800-Medicare or the Social Security office to confirm that. But I've heard that, unfortunately, you're unable to drop that, especially if you've elected it based on having electing your Social Security benefit. You cannot drop it at that point.
And our next texter writes, my husband and I are both on Advantage plans. We live in St. Louis. If we move to Lake of the Ozarks, are we required to change medical plans, doctors, etc., or can we keep our St. Louis doctors and just drive back for the appointments?
Well, so if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, when you leave the service area, which St. Louis to, I believe that the Ozarks are in Camden County, or at least a big section of the Ozarks is, you're going to have to make a switch to a new Medicare Advantage plan. However, if you elect an Aetna policy or a United Healthcare policy, they're going to allow you to use the doctors in St. Louis as well. So you'll just want to check to make sure that your new policy, so for example, if you move down to the Ozarks and you elect a United Healthcare policy, that your doctors in St. Louis also use United Healthcare, and then you will be able to utilize that national network. But you will be, when you leave the service area, you're going to be automatically disenrolled from your current Medicare Advantage plan because they are regionally based. But you might find, and we've noticed because we have quite a few clients that split time between St. Louis and the Ozarks, is that the plans have become very similar here and in the Ozarks. That really wasn't the case even up to about 6 years ago. So they are doing a good job in trying to make the benefits similar across the board.
And we just had a quick text come in. Isn't President Trump supposed to eliminate Social Security tax?
He has mentioned it.
And tax on tips, and I know they're in negotiations to modify the original Trump tax cuts that are set to expire. And there is a lot of talk about not only extending them, but changing that legislation in certain ways. So we're just going to have to wait and see how that sausage gets made. Right now we have more questions than answers. I imagine as we go through this year, we're going to have more answers than questions. And he's been a busy guy the last 3 weeks.
I'm tired just thinking about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, this isn't something that he can do by executive order. The law changes like that happen through the budgetary process with Congress. So, all good.
We've got more texts.
Fabulous.
And our texter writes, we are considering selling our home, buying another one. Is it more difficult to get a home loan when renting versus when working?
When retired versus working. Go ahead, Dad.
I would say generally the answer is no. We've had many of our clients who have retired, and what we're typically doing is assisting them by providing financial information for them to their banks to show that they do have an income flow to be able to deal with any mortgage obligation that they certainly have. So the answer is no. I don't think so.
I agree with you, Jad. We definitely have, and different banks or different underwriters have different requirements. So it is important that you chat with the underwriter first and then go to your financial professional. Like our clients come to us, or we can have a 3-way phone call with you and the underwriter to find out exactly what the information that they need or any requirements that we have to help you complete. So, for example, banks want to see income or assets. If we can provide both, meaning you're taking a monthly distribution, we can show that history where the money came from. You'll show it that it was deposited at your bank, just like you do with you show your employment history and then you show your deposits and your pay stub. This is similar, but it's just money coming from your asset into your bank account. Or if we're just to provide financial statements to reflect your assets so the bank can see that you have enough assets to support the loan. And we're always happy to do that for our clients. And I always like to tell them we're not going to slow the process down. So whatever is needed, you let us know and we get it right to you. But we definitely have this question frequently because many people think that I don't have income anymore. How am I able to secure a loan? But Social Security distributions from IRAs and assets will all help support a loan that you might need in retirement. And our last text question. I'm 69, my wife is 68, she's retired, and I have 2 more years of income at $140,000 a year before I'm done working. We are currently at a 50-50 mix in our portfolio. We have $2.8 million in IRA assets, $192,000 in Roth assets. Those are big Roths, and $1.5 million in non-managed account, and another $1.2 million in a taxable managed account. Is our current mix correct? 50-50. Neither of us are taking Social Security at this time. We're both going to wait until 70. So it sounds like they have 3, 4, 5, 6, almost $7 million.
My answer to that is no.
The mix is not correct.
Well, I think they're probably being a little too conservative at this particular moment. What I would certainly do is maybe take a look at what places you could get more, if you want to use the word aggressive or more stock oriented. Certainly, your Roth IRA would be a great place to concentrate some of that more aggressive investing style, because we know that all the money, all the interest that's earned there is going to be income tax free. The other thing is that in your non-retirement accounts, which again are not subject to required minimum distributions, investing that money so that it's passed on at a stepped up basis at death, so those capital gains are, and any dividends, et cetera, are basically they aren't income to those beneficiaries. It'd be another place that I would take a look at doing that.
And that could also help you with, I was going to say, Dad, if you are, like you're saying, if you're using some growth-oriented investments in the after-tax account, it could help you with taxes. Now, if you don't need all of those assets to make your income work, then having a growth orientation in the portfolio will help avoid dividends and interest because you're just looking for growth. So I think you're making a great point, Dad, which is it's not just what you buy, it's also where you're purchasing it.
Yeah, the last thing I would add here is we don't have enough information, but my question would be how much of the income that the husband is currently earning is actually being saved after tax. And that being the case, we should be able to work back how much income needs to come from the portfolio to replace that portion of the income. Therefore, again, how much do we need in the milk money bucket? The rest of it could be invested more aggressively for growth. So that would be something I'd recommend for them to consider.
It sounds like a really fun coaching session, potentially, and the fact that neither one of them have taken their benefit, the Social Security benefit, and waiting till 70, I would love to see what that fixed income cash flow looks like.
Well, I mean,
they might not need.
He's still working for another 2 years.
Right.
I love to see that. And you know what else I love to see? All of our listeners every single week. Please tune in again. 9 to 11 a.m. next Saturday, or give us a call, 314-863-0008. See you next week.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.